Ebert review, Bruce Willis tracking a psycho killer in the erotic thriller Color of Night. Desire, danger, and deceit menace Eric Stoltz in Killing Zoe. And a New England family befriends an orphan seal named Andre.
Bruce Willis is a psychologist trying to figure out which of his patients might be a mysterious killer in Color of Night. That's one of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, along with a thriller starring Eric Stoltz and a new family film about a very smart seal. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
We cover the earth. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is Color of Night, and what a violent mess this is. Recycling every movie cliche about psychotherapy and the shrinks who administer it. You know the cliches. Shrinks are the really sick ones, and their patients are more dangerous than so-called regular people who don't seek medical help. Bruce Willis plays a distraught psychologist who moves to California, land of the really screwed up, where he joins a therapy group led by a colleague friend. The friend is murdered, presumably by one of the group members. Detective Reuben Blades investigates.
And you sat in one of these sessions, right?
Yes, I did.
So who did it? Hey! Anderson! Knock! Don't come into my office like that, bro. Hey.
I think Blades needs to be in therapy. Who done it? It might be the sex pot played by Leslie Ann Warren, although she has her own theory about another group member.
Why don't you take a look at someone dangerous? Why don't you take a look at someone who could do it? Why don't you take a look at Clark?
Clark.
Or the killer might be Rose, a strange young woman played by Jane March, who sort of stumbles into Willis's life and supplies the film's unsexy love scenes. There was some controversy over scenes featuring full frontal nudity of Willis, but those scenes have been cut. Another reason not to see this obvious, overhyped melodrama.
How did you get in here?
Last time I was here, I stole the key. It was by the door.
What about the alarm?
Oh, I never thought about that.
It didn't go off?
No.
Color of Night is an obvious whodunit. Anyone who has ever seen a movie will guess in the first reel whodunit. The characters in the group are all overwritten and overacted. The picture ultimately turns into a standard chase film, and along the way we get scenes of repeated, twisted violence that are thoroughly unpleasant. Thumbs down from me on Color of Night.
Well, to coin a phrase from me, thumbs way down, way down. This movie is a complete mess.
Yeah.
And there's a secret about one member of the therapy group, and that secret was obvious to me from the first
shot.
second
The first shot.
that person was on screen.
Of course.
And then you get into this recycled Agatha Christie sort of thing, you know, where it's kind of one of these people had to do it.
Right.
Which one is it? And
5
then
little Indians.
Willis goes to visit each one. And then at the end, the ludicrous, violent climax
Yes,
with the climbing villain. Remember that cliche? Whenever they're trapped, what do? They always climb, so you have the shot of somebody dangling, you know, and having to be saved. There's just one, and the chase scene. What about that red car that chases him around?
Boring.
And there's no way that car up on top of the parking garage, the driver could know that he was down below. So
Hey,
he's working in the dark. I mean, one thing after another.
I didn't like the picture from the violence. The violence where you see a guy with a knife. I mean, it's so unpleasant. I mean, that's what I don't get. And then the psychotherapy. I mean, can't they grow up a little bit? This is really trashing a whole world.
It's not a group therapy session. It's, you know, it's like a zoo.
You know what it is? It's a bunch of actors who are getting their first break. A lot of these are people I haven't seen before. And they're going way over the top.
Those actors actually are like Brad Dourif. They're very experienced, but they didn't use a lot of restraint.
No.
Okay, next movie. And our next movie is still another story about a friendship between a small child and a very, very clever animal. We've had cats and dogs and horses and whales, and now here is Andre about a baby seal who is adopted by a family in Maine. Keith Carradine plays a harbor master with a soft spot for any homeless animal, and Tina Majorino is his daughter who joins him in keeping the secret of the newest addition to their household.
And can we please clean out this barn? We say we're going to do it every spring, and we never... And look, you can make me a nice new office down here.
As Andre grows up, he turns into one very clever seal. So clever that although the movie claims to be based on a true story, I had trouble believing all of Andre's tricks. For example, his ability, not to mention his apparent willingness, to dance the twist. Eventually, Andre becomes a legend and a star of the television news.
Don't you give me no dirty looks. Your father's hip, he knows what to do. Just tell your hoodlum put outside. You ain't got time to take a ride.
Okay, I'm going to grant you that the seal is cute. And Gene, it passes your rule, which is that you got to be able to see both of the animal's eyes at the same time, you know, in order
to have empathy for it.
To have empathy for it. Well, you couldn't miss this seal's eyes. They were big as saucers there. And Tina Majorino is cute, too. She's a very capable young actress, but the makers of Andre lay it on just a little thick with a local villain who I thought of eventually as Billy the Seal Hater, whose only purpose in life is to want to kill that seal. And then there's a thrilling climax in which the little girl sets out to sea in a boat the size of a small bathtub. And of course, the storm of the century blows up on demand, and then it blows over on demand too, exactly when the plot requires it. So there's a nice sunset at the end of that tempestuous day. By the end of the movie, Andre had done so many clever things that the only thing left would have been for him to go on strike.
It's a pretty bad film. I mean, I'm all for family entertainment, but this is pretty lackluster. I mean, first of all, the seal stuff isn't that exciting. I mean, it does everything that you used to see the seals do on the Ed Sullivan Show years ago. I mean, you know, spin ball. They're really, in terms of, you know, how the people are so politically correct. I mean, I can imagine seals protesting that they're always being shown in films bouncing balls on their noses. But at any rate, I had a lot to think about during the making of this movie other than the film. The other thing is, leave the seals out of it. It's really bad when you look at the people in it.
Oh, yeah.
The dad, Keith Carradine, is another stupid movie dad who doesn't want to do things, who doesn't care, who has to be taught to be loving and all that. There's a group that is really being persecuted, dads on film. Okay, coming up next, Killing Zoe, a love story crossed with a bank heist picture starring Eric Stoltz as a master safecracker in Paris.
Moses told me you're in town for business. What kind of business?
Carmen.
Bonjour.
Yes.
That's the fine young actor Eric Stoltz as an American in Paris. He's a master safecracker who has arrived to help rob a bank, but first he has a dalliance with a gentle, only in the movies kind of prostitute played by Julie Delpy.
What makes you think that I'm a good person?
Body language. We fit together.
We fit together? All men and women fit together. Hell, even some men fit together.
They'll meet again, but first Stoltz has to hook up with his fellow thieves and go over the plans to break into the bank's vault.
No, don't you see? We get in to the secondary vault. We take this passage into the Caliber vault. And from the inside, I can open it in 5 minutes.
The actual safe cracking isn't anything special as scenes like this go.
It worked.
Better is the mood of unreality among the thieves as the robbery begins to fall apart.
We got something to cover this up with? What for?
Well, we can't exactly, like, walk through a bank out on the street with a platinum gold. It's gonna look a little...
It's not gonna matter much now, is it? I mean, I think the police have a rough idea of what we're up to.
What?
You don't know?
No, what?
They're outside, but Eric's got it under control. He's talking to them right now.
I'm a big Eric Stoltz fan. I like the way he underplays most of his parts, practically whispering his way through most of his roles. With his low-key approach, he makes us meet him up on the screen. And I like bank robbery films as a rule, but I found that the pleasures of killing Zoe pretty much dissolved in the film's ultra-violent conclusion. I guess I resented having invested interest in these characters only to see so many of them blown away. It's funny, I would have thought the easiest part of this film to do well would have been the robbery, but it's the least successful element for me in Killing Zoe.
And you have another example here of the phenomenon that we saw in Color of Night, which is actors chewing the scenery because they have their big role. They just, you know, give an actor a machine gun and let him walk back and forth and lecture a group of hostages. And, you know, it's really much more effective if you do it quietly and coldly, but these guys were declaiming and screaming and frothing at the mouth, and one character after another was doing it until you realize the movie was really more about behavior than it was about the story.
You know, I don't know that some of the people who make movies realize how tender and fragile a movie can be in this sense. We're into these characters at the start. They're interesting, good actors, and they're written well. But when you start to have mistakes like the explosion of violence at the end of this picture, you just break faith with the people that have spent the time with it. This film comes
following, and after that comes this ending, which is completely unbelievable.
You know, one of the people behind this film is Quentin Tarantino, the hot writer-director now out in independent filmmaking, and he has a habit of creating interesting characters, but then just running them through wild violence at the end of his pictures is another, and not to good effect, I'm afraid.
And the other thing he always does is the only way that a boy ever meets a girl in one of his films is if she's a hooker. That's the only kind of girl that his characters ever seem to meet. When we come back, an actor is obsessed by his role in A Man in Uniform.
Remember who you...
Hi everybody, I'm Dan Walters here at Rivergate Toyota in Madison. And folks, big news, it's our end of summer super sale happening right now. During the month of August, we'll trade for anything, folks. Push it, pull it, drag it here, we'll trade for it. Plus, right now you can drive home with a brand new Toyota sport truck just like this one, or Toyota to sell like this, folks. Your choice, same low price, just $99 a month. So even if you live in Paducah, Bowling Green, Elizabethtown, make that your drive and we'll save you money. One place though, volume selling, that's the key. That's Rivergate Toyota.
It's a family vacation. Right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
Okay, that was pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, you had an indignation that really worked, Henry. Did you ever play a cop before?
No, I saw a cop get shot yesterday.
An actor auditions for a role there as a cop on a TV series in an opening scene from A Man in Uniform, and when he gets the role, he also is given an authentic policeman's uniform at the same time, and that is going to lead to a lot of trouble. He's played by Tom McCamus as a serious, introspective bank clerk who's obviously becoming unhinged even in the early scenes, but for a while, he seems normal enough, as in this scene where he meets the actress who will co-star with him on the TV cop program.
I play the hooker with a heart of gold and lots of cleavage. You're sort of my guardian angel.
Right. Right, it's a good role. Marie's a good woman. Complicated.
Well, I've played her before on Swords of Justice and Letter of the Law. I think I have her down. You know, whenever they need a slut to slap around, I seem to get the nod.
That's Bridget Bako as Charlie, the actress, who invites him over for a rehearsal and begins to sense, as we do, that he's a little weird.
Oh, I hope you don't mind. I brought my uniform. It really helps me get into it.
Your cop uniform?
The guy starts wearing his policeman's uniform on the street, telling himself it's part of his method preparation for the role, but he's quickly losing touch with reality and starts acting as if he's really a cop.
Well, it doesn't matter if your hazards are on. You shouldn't have parked here. What if there was a fire?
I'm having a real bad day. Can you give me a break or what?
You broke the law.
A Man in Uniform is an interesting character study, but it isn't a whole lot more than that. There isn't a plot so much as a linear progression deeper and deeper into the character's growing madness. And there were several scenes that were really hard to believe. For example, when real cops get into conversations with this guy over coffee in a diner for half an hour maybe and never figure out that he's a complete phony. A Man in Uniform starts with a good premise, but I think it could have done more with it.
Absolutely. This is a good actor who I haven't seen before, I don't believe. Tom McCamus is his name, and I'd like to see him do other work. He holds the picture together for a while, and then you're right, it becomes pure formula and not credible at all, because there's a big payoff scene at the end, which is way over the top. Again, violence with another cop who wants to link him up in some sort of private war that this guy has with the people on the street, the slime balls on the street. At that point, the movie is totally out of control. An interesting character. It really doesn't even work with the other actress. Those scenes don't really work. She should realize what's going on with him a lot sooner and get out of his way.
You're right about Tom McCamus, though, a good young actor. Coming up, a new comedy about food and love from the director of The Wedding Banquet, which was a surprise hit last year. The new film, Eat, Drink, Man, Woman.
Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. And it comes from the Chinese-American filmmaker Ang Lee, who last year created the delightful comedy of manners, The Wedding Banquet, a surprise hit. This time, filming in Taiwan, Lee gives us another strong picture, this one a little darker, about a father, a great chef, who has trouble trying to keep control of his 3 grown daughters. Here we meet him in his favorite environment, a restaurant kitchen where he is the unqualified master of his universe. Every Sunday, he cooks dinner for his 3 daughters, and this specific meal is shocking to him because this time, they don't care for his food. This is open war. The women, of course, want to control their own lives, which are proceeding nicely. Here we meet the school teacher on her own turf. The father tries to regain his composure by feeding others who are less threatened by him, including the young daughter of a friend. Here's a scene that brings a smile as the chef prepares a somewhat large school lunch. That's a great scene. It's tempting to call Eat, Drink, Man, Woman a father-daughter version of the Joy Luck Club, and so there, I guess I've just done it. And it's a fair comparison. This film is not as ambitious. It has only one father, but as generational conflict stories go, this one I think works very well, and I do recommend Eat, Drink, Man, Woman.
And one of the things you didn't mention, Gene, was the photography of the food.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of people who went to see Like Water for Chocolate remember the cooking scenes in that movie. Here they used 3 different chefs in order to get the close-ups of that incredibly skilled preparation of those very beautiful Chinese meals. Yeah. And that's an interesting part of it. And also the fact that the guy does something, that he is a chef, that he works in the kitchen, that his best friend is the other chef. It gives him a whole world there. And you see that he's expressing himself through this food because he can't express his love in any other way.
We've hammered at this over the years. These are the how-to pictures. Yeah. We learn something. If you're going to write a character and he's going to have another life, a work life, let us learn something about the work life. Really dedicate yourself to showing that. Too many Hollywood movies just... People don't have jobs. Yeah. Give them a job and let us see something about that job.
All 3 girls, all 3 daughters have jobs too, and we really get involved in their lives in that way. Okay, when we come back, a double video pick of the week, the most popular Spanish language film in American history, which I just mentioned, and also one of the sexiest.
Siskel and Ebert's video pick of the week, brought to you by Orville Redenbacher, the first and last name in popcorn.
Now it's time for my video pick of the week, and I have a double selection this week. First off, one of the most popular foreign films in American history, Like Water for Chocolate, which finally, after theatrical runs of more than a year in many cities, is now out on home video. The movie tells a fable of a young woman who is prevented from marrying the man she loves, and so she pours all of her passion into her cooking, and there are magical results. Also newly out on tapes and discs right now is another Spanish language movie, this one from Spain, that's also very funny and very sexy. It's called Jamon Jamon, which translates as ham, ham, and it's about the almost unbelievable romantic and sexual complications in a small town where the rich kid whose parents own the underwear factory wants to marry the daughter of a prostitute.
¿Qué dirán tus padres? Para ellos solo soy una trabajadora.
Nos casaremos pase lo que pase.
The plot thickens as the boy's mother tries to hire a local stud to seduce the girl away from her son, and there are about 3 levels of complications beyond that.
¿Tú sabías que el jamón da ganas?
Chúpate el dedo.
¿Por qué no me lo chupas tú?
Tú eres un cerdo.
Jamon Jamon is the kind of movie I have a real fondness for. It's outrageous, it's absurd, it's not afraid of sex, and it goes over the top in almost every scene. Jamon Jamon and Like Water for Chocolate are my video picks of the week. And now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs down, way down for Color of Night, the Bruce Willis thriller that was like a cross between a bad slasher movie and an Agatha Christie whodunit, with action scenes so absurd they were a distraction. 2 more thumbs down for the cutesy Andre about a family's love affair with a seal. 2 more thumbs down for Killing Zoe, the Paris thriller starring Eric Stoltz in a violent exercise in the ridiculous. And 2 more thumbs down for A Man in Uniform, the story of an actor losing his grip on reality. We thought the plot was too predictable, but we did like the work by the young actor Tom McCamus. And finally, 2 thumbs up for a good movie, Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, another charming human comedy from Ang Lee about the lives and loves of an expert chef and his 3 unmarried daughters.
That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with a new film by Oliver Stone called Natural Born Killers, with Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis on a murderous cross-country rampage, and Wagons East, starring the late John Candy as a wagon master leading Richard Lewis and other would-be pioneers back to civilization. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
If you'd like to save up to 50% on your contact lenses, eyeglasses, and eye exams, call for a free Lens Express catalog and find out how you can start saving right away. It's almost school time again. Are your children ready to read? Hooked on Phonics makes learning to read easy and fun. Call 1-800-ABCDEFG 24 hours a day. Well Body, new botanical skincare. Enjoy younger, firmer, healthier skin. Well Body, nature's very best. New Blue Bonnet tubs. With a great new buttery taste, everything's better with Blue Bonnet on it.